guys, welcome to another episode of What It Means to Be a Writer. We're on episode 7 now, I think. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about tips for writing your first story. So if you've never written before, if you have written before, maybe these tips will help you out, but these are just like how to get going kind of thing. But first, my disclaimer. So, what I'm about to say here is a conglomeration of my own thoughts and opinions, as well as research that I've done on the internet. If you just disagree with me, that's fine. Okay, so today's episode is basically pointers on writing your first novel. So, if you've already written it, feel free to move along, or maybe have a listen and see if there's anything that might help you on your next novel. All right, it's really up to you. So the first novel, where it was like a novel, I know I told you guys previously that the first story I wrote was in high school, and that's true. But the first time I sat down and my intention was to write a novel was actually for NaNoWriMo. And for those of you who don't know what that is, let me explain a little bit. NaNoWriMo is National Writers Month, and it's a global event for writers to pledge that they plan on writing 50,000 words towards their novel within the month of November. Okay, yeah, it's a big deal, and it's a huge challenge. And I'm kind of an all or nothing sort of person. I was very excited about this when I found out about it, and I was like, yes, this is the challenge for me. I'd never written more than probably 25,000 words before. So this felt like it was a huge leap, which was great. So that being said, I did absolutely nothing right on this project. I did finish it, which felt amazing, and I was very pleased with myself. However, when I was done, it was kind of trash. And I say that honestly. And I love this manuscript. It still sits on my shelf. It's one of my favorite stories I've ever written. And someday I'm going to take the time to like fix it up and make it good. And then I'm going to publish it because I really do love it and it's great. But for right now, it holds the true universal truth about everyone's first great work of fiction, which is it sucks. And that's okay, because the goal for this book was to write it. The goal was not like to make the next great American novel, which hopefully is your goal too. Probably, maybe. Well, we'll see. Okay, so let's jump into the pointers. So number 1, write the ending first. This gives you direction. I've said in previous videos how important it is to me that you write the ending first. But basically, you're taking on a monumental challenge, and having direction is important. So you wouldn't go for a hike, like a 6-mile hike, without a map, without guidance of some sort, or without direction, because then you're just wandering around in the woods, and they call that being lost, not going on a hike. So if you have an end goal with your writing, then you have a direction, then your story stands a chance of being finished. And to be perfectly honest, my first novel, it doesn't have an ending. Like, I know where it was going, but I never wrote the ending because I got lost in the woods, literally. Like, I couldn't find the way to the ending. I just kept going. All right. 2, create a character sheet. By that, I mean a character bio. Sorry, that's my D&D showing. What that means is that you want to sit down with each of your characters and have them fully fleshed out. You want them to be 3-dimensional beings so that people can relate to them. You want to know everything about them, whether it goes into your book or not. Know them like you would know your friends. A good way to go about this is by having a conversation with them. And I know that sounds funny and weird, but I mean it. I will have standard interviews with my characters in order to get to know them better. You can do this like speed dating, if you prefer that methodology. But if you do it correctly, they'll feel like real people in your head. And that would be in a creative writing way, not in a blurred reality, which can get you into trouble way. Okay. But yeah, you want them to be like real people. Okay, identify your character's conflict and their conflict resolution. So if you're working on your MC, then you want to know what the conflict is and what the point of growth is for them, and then what their resolution is going to be. If your character does not face conflict and then growth and then conflict resolution, then you're not writing your MC, okay? Because you don't have an actual story. So you just have a bunch of words. It's important that your character has to face an opportunity for growth or change. This doesn't always have to be like some epic ballad. It doesn't have to be fighting dragons. And it doesn't even have to be positive. It could be negative. But it does have to show strife or conflict and then resolution. So if you've plotted this out, or at least thought about it at the beginning of the writing process, then you know when you start out that you have a book and that you're not going to get halfway there and realize that you don't really know what's happening with your character. Okay. And then identify your character's growth. So you want to make sure you identify your character's change and development throughout the story, especially if it's gradual, so that you can highlight it and make sure that you and your audience don't miss it and that it's there. Also, you don't want like a completely evolved character at the beginning of your book, because then there's no journey of progression for your readers. So knowing who your character is going to be after the struggle and who your character is before the struggle is very important. It's hard to have a book. Well, no, it's not. It's hard to have a good book without these 4 things. And that's why I recommend developing them before you even get started, because if you have these major components built, that's the skeletal structure. And you just have to write out the fleshy in-between bits. You can have an abrupt story with these 4 things, and it might seem rushed. And some readers will be like, oh, I wish you'd spent a little bit more time on it. But at least you have a story, okay? And you can't have a story if you don't have these things. Then it's just a pile of words. So it's very hard to go back through a story and try to surgically implant one of these things, because it affects every part of your developing story. So you have to go back and tweak literally everything and change every part of your story. And that's not to say that it can't be done, but it's really hard and it's very time consuming. I've done it. It's not fun. So these are really just suggestions. They're guidelines. You don't have to do it, but hopefully it feels like it kind of helps you out. And I'm really just trying to like give you some steps to take that you don't make all those same mistakes that I did when I was starting out. So anyway, get out there. Right. Like always, I want to see your story. So take care. See you next week.